Good morning, Brownsville. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this feed. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Frankie Olivo. Our program focuses on the very important issues that are affecting our local community. We have shed light on injustices, and we've allowed for our platform, this mic, to be that of the voice of the people. Now, if this is something that you can see yourself supporting, we ask that you like, comment, and share this live feed. Now, as of late, our Facebook page is at risk of being taken down. The powers that be do not want you, the voter, to know the truth. But remember, we will not be silenced. Now, if you're really about the cause and you want to stand up to corruption and you want to hold our elected leaders and those in leadership positions accountable, well, we ask that you join the cause. Currently, right now, this live program is being streamed across all of our social media platforms. We encourage you to follow them. On X, formerly known as Twitter, we could be found under Frankie Olivo. Make sure you follow our personal page on Facebook. We could be found under Olivo Frankie. But more importantly, if you haven't already, go to Gmail, create an email, like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Frankie Olivo TV. Good morning, Brownsville. We'll come on Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., sometimes a little bit after, religiously. So make sure that you subscribe to our channel. Remember, people, I will never, ever ask you for money. I will never, ever ask you for food. All I ask of my community is something very, very simple. Support our program by following us on social media, but more importantly, subscribing to our YouTube channel titled Frankie Olivo TV. I'm very proud to say that as of this morning, we are at 921 subscribers on YouTube. Remember, my people, it's free. The goal by the end of this year is to reach 1,000 subscribers. And I made a promise to the community. And I know I'm hearing people say, why do you keep on talking about this? Why do you, if you get there, you get there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm my biggest cheerleader. I'll always make fun of people when I see that they're with their business logo and shirts and things, and I was like, at the airport. Oh man, again, technology. Geez. I've tried my best to make sure that everything is up to date, is rebooted, but for whatever reason, there's always something with technology. I think there's something, I guess, here in the area. But unfortunately, the show must always go on. So if I do go out, I do apologize. Again, I'm very OCD about my work. I want to give you all the very best, but unfortunately, things that I cannot control happen. Unfortunately, I'll try to do better next time. Again, I'm promoting my page. For those of you that would like to help, make sure you subscribe to Frankie Olivo TV. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I wanted to talk about something that is happening in our local area. We titled today's program Gringos, los Gringos Invadiendo a México. This is a very important topic because for the last X amount of years, we've seen how the relationships between both countries has slowly deteriorated. And that is what I want to focus on today. Is there a possibility of the U.S. invading Mexico. That is how we will start today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in, Brownsville.
Ahora sí se ven los motores parejitos, ¿verdad?
Ya no lo veo, ya dejó hasta infinito y más allá.
The video, ladies and gentlemen, the video that I just showed you was taken from Playa Bagdad in Matamoros, Mexico. That location, ladies and gentlemen, is possibly the closest one could get to the actual launch site that is located in Boca Chica Beach. Now, the history of Playa Bagdad is very unique. The beach is a small coastal area in the mouth of the Rio Grande. And obviously, it has ties to U.S.-Mexico relationships, especially during the 19th century. Playa Bagdad at one time became an important port settlement called Bagdad. It grew during the American Civil War because Mexico was a neutral country. Bagdad, the port, became a major hub for blockade running where Confederate cotton was shipped out of Mexico and to Europe. This town eventually became an industrial trading point, and it drew many Americans across the border. Its proximity with the United States territory here in Texas, it meant that there was constant cross-border movement, commerce, and conflict. But the area itself always remained in Mexico. After the Civil War ended, the town rapidly declined. Trade collapsed. Storms damaged the settlement. And the once thriving port, it faded away. Today, Playa Bagdad is part of Matamoros, Tamaulipas, and is within Mexican territory. This is due because of the U.S.-Mexico boundary of the Treaty of Guadalupe and the Gadsden Purchase. Now, while the border has shifted slightly over time due to river movements, Playa Bagdad itself was never annexed or held by the United States, though it has long shaped our relationships because of close economic and cultural ties to the border region. When we talk about the relationships that we have, many of us living in a border town, we can talk about the culture, we can talk about the festivities, the history, rich traditions that we share in neighboring sister cities. Charo Days is possibly one of the most celebrated, anticipated events here in the city of Brownsville because it allows us to relive our heritage and show the new generation of what the Tex-Mex Mexican American culture is all about. What we have seen, though, in the last X amount of years has been something that has not been beneficial to this partnership. Whenever, ladies and gentlemen, whenever we talk of the relationships, there is turmoil. There is discussions of invasion. Now, when we study the history, we talk about deep economic relationships, security, cooperation, and also growing tensions as of late. But when we study the history of these cultures, we talk about trade, which have very strong ties. We can talk about NAFTA during President Clinton's administration, that brought economic growth, success to the North American continent. Manufacturing, supply chain, many industries, vehicles, electronics have integrated and traveled across the border. There have been cross investment opportunities where people on both sides are able to invest and make money. When we talk about the security cooperation, is very big as well. When we talk about drug barons, extraditions, we have seen how Mexico, as of late, have been giving those gringos what they want. The capos, border management, there have been collaborating efforts to manage the shared border, to balance security, trade, and movement of hundreds of thousands of millions of people. Immigration, it remains also a very central issue, especially in today's times, right? We hear about the deportations going on by ICE throughout the country, and it has created tensions around immigration efforts, border security, and the idea of human rights. It has influenced the way we think about bilateral politics. Environmental issues. One of the main issues that the U.S. has been claiming as of late is that Mexico owes the United States water. We do share rivers like the Rio Grande, and water scarcity and drought have recently intensified disputes. Today, we're going to also focus on talking about the environment, how we're starting to see that Mexico is at odds with SpaceX. There has been political tensions and talks about sovereignty. While we do have a big cooperation amongst the two countries, the relationship has not been free of friction, of tension. Mexico often pushes back on what it sees as U.S. interference in domestic affairs. Trade, policy, migration, enforcement, security demands, all these are U.S. pressures on Mexico to crack down on organized crime, which sometimes, and as of late, it has caused strain in this diplomatic relationships. What we have seen as of late has been a total shift in the way the United States will be handling Mexico. One thing that President Trump has been throwing out as of late has been this idea of attacking the cartels, organized crime head on. We are all aware that Mexico, for the longest time, has been the middleman between drug countries such as Colombia, Venezuela, Panama in South America, and Mexico's organized crime, their job has been to smuggle tons of narcotics into this country. You are well aware of what has been said about fentanyl. According to United States statistics, it is said that hundreds of thousands of lives are lost because of this drug. That now many towns are full of zombies, people who are addicted, who consume, and ultimately who OD. While Mexico's President Sheinbaum has been very steadfast and reminding the world that the United States will not invade Mexico, that Mexico is sovereign and should be respected, President Trump has openly stated, as of a few days ago, that he will take action if he sees that Mexico is not doing anything about it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is this standoff, right? Who's going to blink? Is Mexico willing to be at odds with Uncle Sam? We have seen how the United States for far too long has participated in elections. They have installed democratic countries. Look at what's happening with Venezuela. There is talks that the United States is actively monitoring that country. They've already labeled President Maduro and his administration as being terrorists. These are very serious accusations, and many anticipate that the United States will ultimately, in some way, take out President Maduro and install their own government. But what we have seen, ladies and gentlemen, as of late has been that the problem here locally is SpaceX and Mexico. Now, we talked about how the Treaty of Guadalupe set Rio Grande as the border between two countries. Throughout the years, and as we can imagine, erosion does or has affected this territory, this border, this imaginary line throughout the years. And when we talk about the border, what we have seen has been that Mexico, it is claiming that the United States, well, in this particular case, that SpaceX is invading Mexico. And again, that is a big no-no. That is something that Mexicans have feared for the biggest time. Many allude to the fact of how the United States gets whatever they want. There was this issue with tariffs, remember? Where they couldn't come to some sort of agreement. But it always seems as if Big Brother, Uncle Sam, always gets what he wants. But Mexico is complaining because of SpaceX. And look, living here, having SpaceX in the city of Brownsville at Boca Chica, it has caused many people to be upset. We here locally have appreciated and considered our very own treasure. And we're fortunate because we have Boca Chica and we have South Padre. Brownsville, Texas, for far too long has been a poor area. We have seen corporations such as SpaceX and LNG take over. Now, SpaceX has incorporated and it has become its own city. Now they don't belong to the city of Brownsville. Now they answer to themselves. There is talks of them closing streets, of them not allowing the public access to the area. This is very alarming. Many locals are up in arms. How can we let the world's richest man take our most prized possession, which is our beaches, create his own municipality, thank you, Daniel. Thank you for, let me see, how many do I have? I have 2 on X, 11 on YouTube, 0 on my personal, and 10 on my Frank Olivo page. But thank you, Daniel. I'm not sure where you're looking at, but thank you so much for your view. Thank you for contributing to our page. We really appreciate it. Speaking of views, if you go through our videos, we've had pretty good views as of late. The cafeteria lady right now is at 5,000. My goal in 24 hours is to get to 1,000 views. That is my goal. 1,000 times 5, Monday through Friday, that's 5,000. You multiply 5 times 4, that's 20,000. 20 times 52. It's a lot of views. So that's my goal. But thank you so much, Daniel, for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. What are we talking about? SpaceX. Many here locals are upset that we've had big corporations and our politicians have allowed for these billion-dollar entities to take over our land. Now we can't go to Boca Chica. The fishermen are upset that they can't freely come and go. That's one. Also, when we drive down Highway 48 to Port Isabel, to South Padre, what do we see now? We see a lot of construction. We see as if LNG has taken over that area. That boat ramp, I forget what it's called, that boat ramp. Now they have their trucks. Now they have LNG has their own trucks. So now people can go and park and enjoy the scenery comfortably. Now our area has been invaded by big bucks. Mexico has always stated that SpaceX is destroying the local habitat. Whenever we've had what, 2 major explosions that I can remember. At one time, it was at night. It was unannounced. And I think everybody could remember where it was 10:30, 11 p.m. It was late at night. Everybody felt a boom here locally. There was a picture. I have it on our page, on our platform, that the sky turned orange in the city of Brownsville. There were thousands of calls made to Brownsville PD. Many people were wondering, what the heck was that? At my grandfather's house, it felt as if an 18-wheeler rammed into the gate. The house shook. Many people, while it's a polarizing issue of having someone such as Elon Musk, who is on a quest for finding life in another planet, being multiplanetary, thinking about the future, that this planet, this Earth, is one day going to cease to exist, and we're going to need to find something out there. We were sold on Boca Chica to Mars. And many people, maybe not from here, but throughout the world, they are believers. They genuinely feel that that is his mission in life. When you talk to locals, they're upset. When you talk to environmentalists, they hate the idea. But it's not just on the US side. It's also on the Mexican side. What have we seen? Well, the Mexican government, Mexican environmentalists, they recently filed a complaint over SpaceX against Elon Musk, claiming that falling rocket booster debris is harming marine life and damaging the ocean floor in the Gulf of Mexico. This is the complaint that was filed. The bottom right. It was filed by Conibio Global, a marine biodiversity organization in Mexico that launched Expedition Booster 2025 this past summer in partnership with the state of Tamaulipas and their university. And this group, they're studying how booster landings near Playa Bagdad, they may be affecting wildlife and nearby communities. Their complaint does state that they have 20 kilometers of space debris, which amount to tons. If you go right now, you'll find 3 or 5 pieces of plastic or metal or electrical parts from their thruster, even tanks. There is already a lot of debris, according to the complaint. Now, researchers, they do report that sea turtles and dolphins, they often mistake smaller debris for food, which can lead to deadly ingestion. This complaint also documented debris fragments, which measured between 2 and 10 meters long. They showed that a platform used in July, it may have caused. So on the big stage, where Mexico is at odds with Elon Musk, what's going to happen? Now, they're going up against the world's richest man. And if we talk about SpaceX, it seems as if they have been able to do whatever they wish, because the United States recently granted them 25 launches per year. And remember, whenever we talk about their beginnings, they were only granted a few, once a month, a few per year. They were parameters at one time. But now, with this current administration, with President Trump, now they have full reign. 25 launches a year. But something interesting happened, ladies and gentlemen. Something happened as of late that has caused many people, especially on the Mexican side, to be weary. And there's this notion that the gringos always take advantage of the Mexican. Could we blame the Mexican people for having this fear? When we talk about their history, they were invaded by Hernán Cortés, the Spanish crown. That was the first time they saw horses. They were decimated by disease. They do not look too kind on visitors. Why? Because they're scared. Something happened these past few days that is putting this on the world stage. We started today's program with talking about how President Trump has openly stated that if this drug crisis continues and Mexico does not do anything about it, that the United States will take action. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has stated there is going to be no invasion. We are sovereign. That is out of the question. But what happened a few days ago is scaring the people. Here on this picture we have, and I haven't been able to confirm, some people are claiming that these are SpaceX employees. Others are saying no, they're private contractors. But they went into Mexican territory and they installed a sign. How crazy is that, my people? For gringos to cross into Mexican territory and install a sign. Now, this isn't just any sign. I want you to think of whenever countries go and they put their flag in a foreign country. They're putting their sign in a foreign country. What does that mean? Well, it doesn't look good. This sign, ladies and gentlemen, that the gringos installed reads the following. Warning, restricted area. This Department of Defense property has been declared a restricted area by authority of the commander in accordance with the provisions of the directive issued by the Secretary of Defense, pursuant to the provisions of Section 21, Internal Security Act of 1950. Unauthorized entry is prohibited. All persons and vehicles entering herein may be detained and searched. Photographing or making notes, drawings, maps, or graphic representations of the area or its activities are prohibited unless specifically authorized by the commander. Any such material found in the possession of unauthorized persons will be confiscated. What the heck is going on? This is crazy. Again, do these people look like they are a part of the United States government? Because whenever we read the sign again, it talks about a commander. Are they referring to a commander of the military, the commander of SpaceX, the commander of being the president of the United States? What do they mean by this? Again, something that's interesting is the Secretary of Defense. Now, as we all know, the Secretary of Defense had a name change. Now they are referred to as the Department of War or the Secretary of War. Was this sign created a while back? Why did this happen? Now, this happened on Monday. And the Mexico's Foreign Affairs Ministry, it said that they weren't going to tolerate this. And as you can expect, the Mexican papers tabloids, the news is calling it the gringos are invading. The white man is invading. They are invading and putting up a sign in a restricted zone area. And look, SpaceX, if you've been following, they have had the Cameron County Sheriff's Department make numerous arrests of foreign nationals, some Chinese. There are many people that are aware that the Chinese government is wanting to learn secrets from SpaceX. The Chinese government is currently right now in the process of creating space explorations. Would they benefit from something like this, from knowing the details of SpaceX? 1000%. So is SpaceX doing this? Have they been getting information that there's boats, that there's people on the Mexican side, possibly flying drones, possibly drawing maps, taking pictures? Because again, Playa Bagdad is the closest area to the launch. I showed you in the video. Playa Bagdad is right there, super close. But why is SpaceX doing this? Again, we suspected SpaceX. Who else would it be? Who else would benefit from this? Again, look at these people. Do they look like they work for the military? Are they tourists? Were they lost? Some say they work for SpaceX. Some say they don't. Again, it's not in SpaceX's best interest to openly go and challenge the Mexican government. Again, they do have the backing of the United States. That's not a question. And many people bring up legitimate concerns and legitimate arguments. People say, hey, nothing was ever done in this area. Maybe it's a good thing to create jobs and infrastructure. And in the next 15, 20 years, this area is going to be booming economically. It was neglected. It was dirty. Nobody really cared about it. Once big money came in and took over, now we are up in arms. I understand that. That's a legitimate argument. And I also understand why environmentalists or people here locally are just upset. The Mexican government is calling this an invasion. How could we let this happen? It's very interesting. It's a very interesting case moving forward, because eventually it's going to lead for the United States to somehow intervene. Did SpaceX have authorization from the United States to post this? Because again, the sign reads as if it came from a government, some sort of entity. You can't do this just on your own will. Just say, oh, you know what? Let's make a sign. Let's cross into international waters, foreign territory, and let's put up this sign. I would think they don't have that authority, they themselves being commoners. So are these subcontractors? Maybe. More than likely, it was probably a contractor working for the Department of War. I will let you know if we have uncovered any info. Thank you so much for keeping me up to date. But that is what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. The invasion, the gringos are crossing international waters, international territory. Yeah, Gamboa makes a good point. Monterrey was going to be a hub, a plant. They were going to invest millions, billions of $1 billion in a facility that was going to tap into Mexico's lithium, copper, and other natural resources that never came to fruition. I'm not sure if they pulled out or if they ever even built or created that plant in Monterrey. Is this Elon's way of getting back at the Mexican government? It's hard to say. What do you think? How do you feel about this? Is it okay for SpaceX, a multi-billion-dollar company? They are getting involved in international affairs. This is something that the United States government is involved with. But again, based on their sign, it seems as if they have some sort of permission from the Secretary of War, from the Department of War, the Secretary of Defense. Some are saying they are military subcontractors. It's very strange and stupid at the same time. Why would you cross the border to another country and risk an international incident? I thought it could be some crazy lunatics that spread anti-immigration propaganda on X. Who knows? We were doing a lot of traces trying to determine who, but we could not come up with any concrete evidence. More than likely, it was probably a contractor working for the Department of War. I will let you know what we uncover. Any information. Very interesting. And again, the Mexican military showed up. They were pissed. They were upset. What was going on? What will this lead to? The two nations? Now, the Mexican military did remove the structure, the sign by the gringos, but it's only going to lead to more hostility between both countries. Again, the United States is flexing. Are we starting to see the beginning of an actual real invasion by the gringos? President Trump is on the record of saying that he will target organized crime in Mexico. We have seen how this abrazos no balazos policy from Manuel López Obrador, the former president, and now the current president, Claudia Sheinbaum, how that has not affected organized crime. It has empowered them by the government not actively attacking, focusing, arresting, destabilizing these criminal organizations. They have only gotten smarter, richer, more powerful. Is this the beginning of an invasion? Maybe they're trying to test to see how far they can go. Ortiz Hernandez using the analogy of, hey, it's like that neighbor that extends their fence onto your yard. How would you feel? Hey, get this out of my property. I have a survey here. You're on my territory. It's understandable, right? We understand why they would feel that way. Presidente Municipal, they did ask him, and he says, you know what? We have to respect the decision by President Sheinbaum. We are a sovereign nation. We will not let any country foreign claim territory on our land. So the Mexican government did make a press release through the Secretary of the Navy and Foreign Affairs that they did locate and remove a warning sign placed on Playa Bagdad, and they called into question regarding their origins and the information gathered by the Secretary of Navy. The discovery was made after a report was received, and initial inquiries by the Mexican consulate in Brownsville did not confirm that the sign had been placed by any U.S. authority. Was this a secret? Did they not let the neighboring country know? The Mexican government did state that they will initiate the necessary technical consultations to clarify this incident, to conduct a review, and as stipulated by the current boundary and water treatments treaties of the maps that these two border countries have. They reaffirmed their willingness to work with the United States authorities and all relevant national agencies to ensure that legal certainty along the shared border, and also to strengthen the cooperation that characterizes the relationship between these two nations. How do you feel? Is there ever a possibility that the United States can invade Mexico? We are starting to see how senators within the Mexican government have stated that Mexico needs someone like the United States, needs President Trump to restore order in Mexico, to provide security, that the people are tired of organized crime funding campaigns within the government that have put them into power. And what happens? They provide security to cartels. People, tourist towns are being affected. The people don't feel safe. How do you feel about this invasion? Would you welcome this? Would this be good for the people of Mexico? I'm sure that they are tired of the instability in which they live. Maybe, just maybe, they will welcome this and look for a new future with new direction at the behest of the United States government. Los Gringos invading Mexico. Were these SpaceX workers? Were they subcontractors for the Secretary of War? Are we starting to see the beginning of an international standoff where the United States, where SpaceX is saying, this is our territory, do something about it? Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Frankie Olivo TV. Best believe Good Morning Brownsville will come on Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Sometimes a little bit after religiously. So make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel titled Frankie Olivo TV to tune in. My name is Frankie Olivo, ladies and gentlemen, and this is Good Morning Brownsville. Thank you so much for your time and your attention. I hope each and every one of you have a great day. Peace. Mm.